Hi guys, so in this video I'm showing you how to clean up the roots and keep up on your water cultured orchids. If you have any questions about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, leave it in the comments. And in the future I'm also going to be making a video on how to switch over your orchid from being in the orchid bark medium into water culture, so I might answer some questions in that future video also. But until then, you can comment any questions. So I'm taking apart my orchids. I have 4 orchids in this bowl, so I'm separating them so that I can go ahead and examine the roots on each of those. But before I look at the roots, I'm going to go ahead and wash the glass bowl that they're all in. When you have your orchids water cultured, sometimes some of the roots start to decay, some of the roots that go bad, and it will leave some debris in the water. And also, when you've recently switched over an orchid to water culture, sometimes you can't get all of that bark off. So that's also what you'll see here in the water, some bark that has soaked off. So we're gonna dump out that water and wash the bowl so that it's nice and clean for after we get the roots cleaned up, and we can put them in a fresh bowl. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just washing it with regular dish soap and water. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Okay, and then this is an orchid that I switched over to water culture probably 2 to 3 weeks ago. In the center, you can see some of the roots have a little bit of a yellow tint to them. That's from when they were in the orchid bark medium. It keeps the roots really compact and it doesn't get the necessary airflow that they need. And that's what causes that color. They can be white or yellowish. So I'm just looking through here to find any spots that have a little bit of a squish to it. That root is going to be bad, so we're going to trim that one. So you just kind of feel around, and you can also see when roots are bad, sometimes they get a like grayish black color to them, and you can just see right off the bat that they're no good. But if you can't tell by looking, just go ahead and use your fingers on the roots and pinch them, and if it has a squish to it, cut it off. All of these roots are looking good, nice and green and firm. This root here has a little bit of a break in the center where I'm pointing at. So the roots below that are going to end up dying off eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that off as well. There's some of that orchid bark I was talking about that's stuck to the roots, but it'll soak off over time. Now, a lot of these roots on this orchid have died off. That happens a lot when you first switch them over. You kind of get a period of time where the roots are looking worse before they look better. So I'm not going to do much to that one because there wasn't much to do. Same with this one, but this one is starting to get some healthy green root growth, so that's good. That's the start to some healthy roots after that rough phase. This one was a little bit of squish at the end, so I trimmed that off. Now this is my most recent orchid that I switched over to water culture, so you can see a lot of those white roots in the middle. There's some squish here. We're gonna clip them. Over time, these white and yellow roots are going to start turning that pretty green color like the rest, because it's going to have the airflow that it needs. Part of that root was still good, but again, it had a break in it like the other one, so it was going to go bad eventually, so I clipped it off. And I'm clipping off another bad root. This one also has a break in the middle, so we're just going to trim it. There's some more orchid bark that's stuck to the roots. Another break. Same with that one. I'm just looking over all of the roots again to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I think this is pretty much good. There is a bad leaf right here that died back. You can just go ahead and pluck that off if you have a leaf that has died. So that's what I did here. And now this one is good. I'm going to go ahead and rinse all of the roots off to each orchid just to make sure there's nothing sticking to the roots, any of the decaying juices that come out of the roots kind of stick on there, or if any of the orchid bark is starting to flake off, we'll rinse those. That way when we put them back in the bowl with water, it's not gonna just get dirty immediately. We want to keep the water we just replaced fresh as long as possible. So just cleaning the roots, rinsing them all. I do have all of my orchids in this bowl because I need a bigger vase for one of my new ones, so I just went ahead and threw them all in a bowl together instead of all in separate vases just for now. So I'm going to keep the water level low. These orchids, you want to have only the bottom third of the roots in water. So I'm showing you here how the roots are going to kind of curl together. Since they're longer, they'll curl together as I set it in the bowl. So I'm going to keep the water level pretty low. I don't want there to be too much water. You want to keep the core of your orchid out of the water, and you really don't need much water except for the bottom third of the roots. It's all it'll need. So it'll be enough water for my orchids with the shorter roots, and these ones with longer roots, the roots will be in a clump, so the low water level will be fine. Sometimes you could put rocks in a vase, or sometimes you can use stakes to kind of prop the orchid up if you don't have very many roots on them and you don't want the core to fall into the water level. You kind of prop it up. But for now, I'm just balancing all these orchids so that they stand up and they look really pretty.